Most of you are familiar with the 7 classic lightsaber forms, but today I'll be explaining who the best user of each of these are, while also going over how to apply these in combat, and just for fun, who the worst of each form is also. Our first form is Form 1, Shii-cho, also known as the Way of the Sarlacc or the Form of Determination, and the best user for this form was Kit Fisto, the Nautolan Jedi that became a member of the High Council during the Clone Wars and fought against notable lightsaber duelists like General Grievous and Darth Sidious. This was the oldest and most basic of all the lightsaber combat styles, and was taught to all Jedi as a basic groundwork for dueling before they went on to master specific forms. So basically, think of this one as a minimalistic lightsaber form that was very direct and to the point. When the form was created, there were no weapons that could stand a chance against the lightsaber, so the philosophy became to disarm the opponent without killing them, and that was viewed as respectable. This form relied less on acrobatics like Form 4 and force abilities like Form 6, and allowed the user to use it in a wide range of scenarios, unlike the latter forms, which were more effective overall, but only for their specific uses. Jedi like Kit Fisto used this form during the Clone Wars as a close quarters attack to battle droids, who were a perfect target for shii-cho due to how crude and slow their programming was. Kit Fisto would combine this with defensive moves from Forms 3 and 5 to deflect blaster fire. When using this form, Jedi like Kit would make direct, somewhat aggressive attacks to their enemy, but this aggression was balanced with their return to the defensive Form 1 stance that they resumed in between every attack. Master Fisto notably held his ground against General Grievous, someone known for defeating and killing Jedi, and for surviving longer than the other 2 Jedi Mace Windu brought to arrest Palpatine. Oh, and the worst user of this form is just gonna go to all the younglings, because if you think about it, this is the only lightsaber form that they would know when they were at this level. Next up is Form 2, also known as Makashi, or the Way of the Salamari, or the Contention form, and this was mastered by Count Dooku, aka Darth Tyrannus. And this lightsaber form was created to combat the Sith, which is pretty ironic when you think about Dooku, but specifically in lightsaber to lightsaber combat, and this could also block attacks from a lightsaber that the defensive moves of shii-cho were unable to accomplish. Also, this form was more aggressive and elegant than that of Form 1. Also, while Form 1 had broad sweeps of the hand, Form 2 was made up of more precise, quick movements. A very important part of Makashi mastery was the ability to not be unarmed by your opponent while unarming them at the same time. Count Dooku defeated and killed many Jedi with this form. He also defeated Obi-Wan Kenobi twice with it, fought Anakin Skywalker 7 times with it before finally being defeated by him, and he even taught this down to apprentices like Ventress, and was able to go toe-to-toe with Yoda briefly, whose use of the Force gave the Green Jedi Master enhanced speed, which makes this a very significant accomplishment from Dooku's part. And the worst user for this is Sindralig, which, okay, obviously, these aren't the actual worst users of these because we don't have access to every single person that ever used each lightsaber form. However, Sindralig was supposed to know all of these, and he taught everyone that was a Jedi at some point, but he got murked by Anakin pretty quick, so nah. Form 3, also known as Sarisu, or the Way of the Minok, or the Resilience form, was best used by Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and was created in response to the growing prevalence of blasters in the galaxy. And remember when I said Form 1 wasn't that good at deflecting blaster bolts earlier? Well, that's where Form 3 comes into play, with Jedi using the blade to block blaster bolts, and even with enough skill deflect them back at their enemies. It also worked as the best defensive form to numerous lightsaber wielders at once, or even one singular opponent with a much higher skill level than you. Obi-Wan Kenobi was of course a master at fighting people with blasters. But nah, for real though, he was one of the most proficient Jedi for defense against battle droids, and he also fought for long periods of time against Darth Maul, Count Dooku, General Grievous, and would go on to successfully defeat Darth Vader on Mustafar, someone with a much higher midichlorian count and power level than him. And the worst for Form 3 is Coleman Trebor, because for someone that was skilled with defense against blasters, the fact that he was killed by one in a very easy situation is pretty sad. Form 4, or Ataru, also known as the Way of the Hawk Bat, or the Aggression Form, was best used by Grand Master of the Jedi, Yoda himself. It was an acrobatic form which was great for deflecting oncoming fire, and even better for open spaces of attack. Jedi and Sith who possessed a higher level of strength in the Force, or that came from a more acrobatic species, were usually the ones who relied on this technique as their main, so to speak. Form 4 sought to end fights as quickly as possible, and used these acrobatic moves like flips and somersaults to engage their enemy, while also utilizing spinning hand movements similar to Form 3 to masterfully defend against blasters. Apparently Qui-Gon was a master of this form, but I could have sworn I never saw this guy using this in The Phantom Menace. Yoda proves the swiftness of this form by how brief, aggressive, and arguably physically taxing his duels we see him fight in were for him. Oh, I'm gonna say the worst user of this was Qui-Gon, because like bro never even used this at any point, so yeah. Form 5, also known as Xian or Jim-So, or the Way of the Krayt Dragon, or the Perseverance Form,
I'm so confused,
was best mastered by Darth Vader, and it was developed by Form 3 users who felt too much of their time was spent waiting for openings, leading to it being all about power attacks and defense, followed right after by counter-attack. While Xian was more focused on defense against blaster technology, Jim-So was designed for lightsaber dueling, and after his defeat on Mustafar, Vader would tweak his usage of Form 5 to base it around the sheer power and patience, allowing for his rage to build up in the moments when he switched from offense to defense before letting out another unstoppable attack. His son Luke Skywalker would go on to use this form, as would Ahsoka Tano, and it's interesting to note how many of these styles are passed on from master to apprentice, like with Mace Windu and Depa Billapa with Vapod. Oh, and the worst user of this is Aegon Kolar, who died immediately to Darth Sidious. Form 6, also known as Nieman, or the Way of the Rancor, or the Diplomat's Form / Moderation Form, which was best used by the ancient Sith, Exar Kun, somewhat combined the other 7 lightsaber forms. It also relied heavily on the user's force abilities, and often aggressive force attacks were integrated into the combat at regular intervals to wear out the opponent. Also, this form could often be used with a double-bladed lightsaber, as was the case with Exar Kun and even Darth Maul, who used a modified version of Nieman, which is obvious from his frequent use of spontaneous force pushes and other abilities. The worst user of this is Grand Inquisitor, who I don't even really have a joke for, but just from the people we've seen, he really wasn't that amazing. Form 7, also known as Juyo, the Way of the Vorksker, or the Ferocity Form, and the best user of Juyo was Darth Sidious himself, who also was proficient with Jar Kai, which was a form of 2 lightsabers at once, and dual wielding, and we see him use this against Maul and Savage on Mandalore, while the unorthodox and immensely aggressive form of fighting against the Jedi in his office was proof of his unfathomable mastery of Juyo in its purest form, which is to slaughter all who dare to oppose you. And the worst one of this is Darth Maul, just because his main form was actually Form 6, Nieman, so he didn't use Juyo as much and probably wasn't quite as good at it, and obviously I can't say Sidious was the worst. Another offshoot of Form 7 is Vapod, which was invented by Mace Windu. It actually fueled off of the dark side energy of an opponent and allowed light side users to tap into the dark side in a controlled manner to effectively defeat and vanquish Sith Lords. Mace Windu proved himself to be the best of the limited amount of Jedi to use on this form when he defeated the most powerful Sith of all time with it on Coruscant. And the worst here is Depa Billapa because, like I said, basically just Mace Windu and her, and she ain't Mace Windu, so there you go. But anyway, that's it for this video. You can subscribe if you want to. My life/Christian advice of the week is to love thy neighbor, and remember to help people out even when it isn't the socially acceptable thing to do. Just go help someone out that needs some help, because it might make the day to them and it might really help, and probably will make you feel better as well. So yeah, that's my advice. Make sure to leave a comment if you have any questions about this video or any video suggestions for things you want me to cover. Also, if you just want to tell me how your week's been going, you can do that as well. I upload normal videos every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also shorts every single day. But yeah, see ya.